This show is sponsored by PowerfulWomenUSA.com, a place to be inspired by other women. Hey, everybody, I'm Jill Conway, and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating and supporting strong and successful women and sharing their stories. I'm hoping you will be inspired to pursue your own dreams, reclaim your voice, and discover your strengths. So my guest today is Nicole Brewster. Nicole is president and CEO of Renforth Resources, which is a mining and exploration company in Canada. So Nicole, thank you for being here and welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
So Nicole, as I mentioned to you before we started, I know nothing about mining, but I love it even more because I love learning, and I love that with your expertise, you can teach us all really about your industry and what you do exactly and how you dominate a male-dominated industry.
Certainly. Well, I'd like to think I do anyway.
Yeah.
So Renforth is what you would call a junior exploration company. We're Canadian, so we hold properties in Canada, Quebec, and Ontario. And within our portfolio, we actually have a gold deposit and a critical minerals deposit. It's nickel, cobalt, copper, a few things, zinc. It's a basket of metals. Then we have other properties. And my job and the mandate of the company is fundamentally to grow the value of the assets, which should at some point translate to the publicly traded. We're publicly traded, so the stock price should reflect the asset value. And I'm growing these assets towards production. I'm operating in the interests of my shareholders. I am the largest retail shareholder in the company. And the premise is you develop the physical mineral assets in order to increase the share price of the company. And in the case of the gold deposit and the polymetallic, the critical minerals, I intend to take them into production, which is a huge job. It'll take a lot of time. My hair will only be whiter at the end of the process, but it's super fun. It changes every day. And I'm at the very entrepreneurial, very risky end of this business. So I'm in the very, very shallow end in a pool with a bunch of big fish. And at some point, there's a good chance one of them will eat me, but not until we establish more value and we get a good price. So that's the business.
Well, how do you find more resources? Like, what do you do? Layman's terms, everybody. I don't know a lot about this. So
layman's terms, I'm not a geologist. I was raised by a geologist who worked around the world. So I understand this world, but I am an entrepreneur. My perception of risk is very unusual because I understand the exploration business. So I don't perceive it as risky. It is risky, but essentially what I was doing yesterday, in fact, is I go through the publicly documented exploration data. So geologists have gone out in the field and they've taken rock or soil samples. It's been assayed chemically to determine what metals are in the sample. If it's rock or dirt, how much metal's in there. And that information gets recorded and it gets geographically linked to where it occurs. So that's the first layer of data. Drill holes get drilled, geophysical surveys, there's a whole bunch of data. So I go through the data and I'm looking for what wasn't seen or what was ignored. For example, for Renforth, separate to what I was doing yesterday, which was looking at Ontario, for Renforth last week, I started staking a bunch of claims adjoined to our existing property to the south. And I'm going through all the data that's recorded, and it's very unexplored. So there's only little bits of data. But what I'm looking for is potential. So I was reading a program that was from the 70s, and they took 100 samples, and I'm reading through the results of all the samples and looking at the UTMs to figure out where they actually are and what did they find. Because there are limitations. They're only accessing what they can see, et cetera, et cetera. But if they found something, that's potential, and that means I'm sending geologists back in the field this summer to follow up on that data. So what I'm doing is looking for opportunity. I'm trying to connect the dots with varying amounts of data. And then I'm taking the risk. So the risk is I staked a claim, costs $100 to stake the claim, and in 3 years I have to do in Quebec, I believe it's $1,200 worth of work, and pay like $100 in fees.
Wait, let me stop you there. So when you stake a claim, what does that mean? I mean, it's not like a stake in the ground, or you claim this area.
It used to be a stake in the ground, and if you watch, for example, the Australian Opal Hunter reality TV show, it showed the ground releasing, and they're running out there with their 4 posts. Used to do it that way. A lot of rules about how those posts went in the ground, how high they could be, how they had to be marked, yada yada yada. Now it's on a computer. So in Quebec, I have a fella who does it for me. But he goes in on the computer, selects the open cells that he wants, and then the computer, if there are no issues, registers it to him. I was doing it in Ontario, and I went in and I drew a line on the map because it was easier than writing down all the numbers, and the computer assigns the cells to me. So that's called map staking now. Most jurisdictions, well, in Canada anyway, the jurisdictions have gone to map staking. In the US, it's a little bit different, and I'm not as familiar with the BMLs and how the US works. But yeah, we just select it on a computer. So it used to be
and then your geologist goes out there, gets a sample of the dirt, and then does the testing and see what metals or whatever substances come up.
Right. Or we might fly geophysics. We might, there's a number of things, there's a number of exploration techniques, and there's the industry has numerous specializations. You know, one of them, because of the type of area I staked, there's a lady who runs a geological consulting company in Ontario that I'm going to try and induce to work on the property because she's very knowledgeable, so she's hard to get. But I want her expertise because of the kind of ground I've staked. She did some work before. I now have more of the ground that she was looking at, so I want her to come back and do it again. So there's lots of specializations within the exploration field. And then even when you take, for example, this latest geologist, but her knowledge is incredibly specialized around pegmatites, which hosts rare earths or uranium. And
wait, stop with rare earth, which is what? What is rare earth?
I'll screw this up, but there are rare earths and rare earth elements. Fundamentally, that's what you're hearing in the news. Specifically, you're hearing the rare earth, the lanthanide elements, which is a part of the periodic table.
And, that I didn't learn.
Yeah, nor did I, believe me.
Yeah.
I learned it after the fact. School wasn't, well, anyway. But these are the elements that are required for magnets. And magnets are involved in energy transmission and how fast energy moves. So a lot of what you're hearing in the news is around, what I used to tell people was, we've been in an industrial revolution that started, I don't even know now, at least 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And it's regarding energy. The population and demands only increase on the planet, and our thirst for energy is insatiable. So that can mean oil, gas, fuel. It can also, though, mean metals. It can mean metals because if we're trying to harness the energy of the sun, we need, for example, silver to make the film that that takes photovoltaic energy. If it's wind turbines, we need all the metals that go into the wind turbines. We need to build the actual turbine. And then once we get that energy, we need to store it somewhere. So we need the metals that make batteries. But then we need the metals that go into the power lines that carry that energy from the battery to your house. Or we need to make the power line itself, but we also need to build the towers that hold the power line. Like the need for metals in and around what's transforming our world is energy. And it's our ability to create the energy we need for AI. It's the ability to create the energy we need for just how computerized we've become. Our digital economy it's a very hungry economy. Bitcoin.
Let me stop. Let me ask you. You're so knowledgeable, so I want to just take a moment. So what I find very interesting by what you just said is that in our efforts to go green, essentially, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the people who do not want the mining and do not want the digging, right? We need all of that in order to create the windmills and the solar.
Our existence is very fundamental.
Wow.
If we don't grow it, now that can mean in a field or in a lab.
Yeah.
Plastic is grown in a lab, for example, but if we don't grow it, we have to mine it. So elements of your toothpaste have been mined. Elements of your makeup have been mined. Clays, kaolin clay, it's throughout a lot of makeup, it gets mined. You know, it's just that fundamental. Our existence is that fundamental. If we don't grow it, we mine it. Period. End of story, whether you like mining or not. And that's part of the disjointed reality we find ourselves in now. China controls something like, I used to know these statistics, but let me just say the vast majority of the mining on the planet, if not owned outright by China, they have rights to what comes out of the mine because they provided financing when no one would. So they've got a stranglehold on many commodities at the mine level, but they almost have entire control on a lot of commodities like rare earth elements at the processing level.
You mean across the world, though, they have this?
Across the world.
Oh.
Because this stuff gets shipped to China. It's not necessarily being mined in China, but it'll get shipped there for processing. Or if it's mined and it's owned by Chinese entities in North America, when it gets sold, they're going to ship it where they want. So they have the stranglehold on mining. And a lot of the reasons they have, there's two big reasons why they have that stranglehold and why your government is, trying like the Vault Act to try and buffer your industrial requirement for metals by having a stockpile. But two reasons why they have the stranglehold. One, they were a source of capital, long-term capital with a longer-term vision than our transactional capital markets has. So it's almost impossible to fund mining or exploration, trust me. The other reason, though, is not in my backyard. They did not care. They built it. People don't want to see mining. In Canada, it's endemic. It's a bad word. Our prior government was transforming us to a digital economy, which is ludicrous. We're a natural resources economy. Between trees, water, and rocks, we're pretty much a natural resource, and liquid rocks, oil.
Yeah, but don't you think that's just, I mean, who wins by doing that? I feel like the world has done that. They've condemned mining.
China wins.
So it's good PR for China.
Because they took the opposite side. They took the riskier position, and they're a centralized government. The government's going to do what the government's going to do. I mean, in my country, the government can't move forwards because the opposition to pretty much anything and everything. People will oppose it just to oppose it. Everyone has a platform and needs their opinion heard. But it's the tree. You're not getting past the trees. You can't see the forest for the trees, kind of thing. So, that's problematic around the world, in Europe, Canada, North America, South America. Mining's a bad thing, but it's fundamentally required, and we need to bridge that gap.
Wow.
We will. It's going to take some time.
So you have some fierce competition by some heavy hitters, as you said.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they don't like you right now.
No.
Yeah.
Well, my business is not a touchy-feely business. My shareholders struggle to understand because, I'm next door to Canada's largest mining company, and I have what they need. And they need it in 5 to 10 years, and they could be helpful. I've had it for more than 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah,
can you say what that is or no? What do you have?
It's a gold deposit next door to Canada's largest open pit gold mine, but it has it's going to have a deficit of material in 2029 if the scientific document, unless they find a bit more, but the deficit's coming. They might push it out, but it's coming. So they're going to mine several other locations, including putting it on rail, mine material from Ontario to Quebec, a couple 100 kilometers. And yet I'm sitting right next door. And they could have been helpful, in providing financing, technical support, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what my shareholders fail to understand. It's a competitive industry. It's pretty cutthroat, and nobody's there to help you. They're hoping you screw up and walk away. That's really what they're hoping.
And they'll take over. Take over where you left off. Yeah. Let's talk about that before you keep going, because I just love what you're talking about. We've been kind of told obviously, and I, from what I'm listening to you, I feel like we've been sold a bag of goods that's, rotten, right? So all these resources, all our natural resources are so limited, right? And there's protests and everything. There's oil's limited and gold is limited and and what do you say to that?
No, it's not. We keep approaching, and the financial press loves to talk about the gold cliff. We're going to run out of gold. The oil cliff. We're going to run out of oil. The commodity price is going to go through the roof because we're going to run out of it. No, we're just going to refine our exploration techniques better because we're exploring undercover. A lot of the exploration, like the easy stuff's been done. We're now in more challenging circumstances. We're literally, 5 inches of dirt, 12 meters of dirt, doesn't matter. It's dirt over the rock. You can't see the rock. So you have to use other techniques to try and see through the dirt, extrapolate data you have to what it might be, spend the money, roll the dice, see if there's something there. We will continue to find materials. There's really no reason to expect we've run out of materials. They've proven, like the part of the polymetallic deposit that I have
What is
defined.
A polymetallic? What is a polymetallic?
Multiple metals. So
okay.
It's two different metal bodies. One is carrying nickel, cobalt, platinum, and palladium. And it probably intruded through another one, which is carrying zinc, copper, silver, and gold, amongst other things. But the zinc, copper, silver, gold one's neat because it's a black shale. It's the outer edges, the theory is, the very outer edges of a magma flow that dried a long time ago, cooled off, left rock behind. Where did the rest of it go? Where is the volcano? That's called a VMS deposit. It's a style of deposit. Again, I had an expert in VMS exploration. He's passed away, but he was advising us. So within geology, there are expertise, right? But if we can find that volcano, that's a big deal.
Right.
But it's almost impossible to find. It's hard to sense it. You really do have to do the work and assess the chemistry and try and follow where you think it might be. But, we're doing it and we'll continue to do it. And other people are doing the same thing with other teasing occurrences of metal. And that's what we do. And we'll figure it out. We'll get there. We're not going to run out of metal, but volcanoes is where I started this story. On land, right? Like a whole long time ago, we were all under sea.
Right.
Now we still have oceans. There are still volcanoes under those oceans. You see them come up and make islands, but they also exist under the oceans, and that's where you get seabed mining. It's little nodules of material that were spewed off by a volcano, cooled in the water, drop. So they want to mine the seabed. Now, is it ecologically sensible? Do we know the impacts? There's a whole lot of questions that come from that. But that's expanding the mineable possibilities.
Territory. Right.
They talk about mining Mars. Is it a good idea? Is it financially viable? I haven't the foggiest clue.
Right.
But again, industry's innovating. So, I don't think we're going to run out of anything. I think we're just going to get more sophisticated and probably expensive in how we find it, which means the price of commodities are going to go up, which means the prices of everything are going to go up.
So when you find an area that, the tests come positive from some mineral or some source, right? How far at that point, what do? You take your big equipment or what do you do? And you go, how far do you go down?
Well, it's a sequential process, right? So we'll start with what let's say just the geologists are out walking lines and sampling rock on the surface. They come back and they'll find something of interest. We will then go back and really zoom in on an area. So we did that with a copper discovery on one of the properties. A geologist grabbed it, got really high grade because the grade is a function of the weight of the sample. So our geologist went back and took bigger samples, so the grade goes down, but the material is definitely there. However, it's really not enough justification to spend the money on a drill program. It's risky to drill because if you do it wrong, you kill the project as well. So we stripped the overburden over about 110 meters and then cross-cut it. We've exposed the mineralization on surface. So now I'm looking at this going, what do we do next? Because again, if we drill it and do it wrong, we kill it and we spend a bunch of money. So we backed up a step and we did the soil sampling, which is sometimes the first step. And the government's done bits and pieces of that around the province. So sometimes we use that data because the metals can precipitate into the soil. However, it wasn't helpful because while we have a copper discovery, we now have a gold anomaly in the soil. We're right near a gold structure, so that sort of makes sense, but it didn't solve the problem. So now we're back to we've stripped this, we can see the mineralization. What do we do next? What can be low cost, high success potential, give us the most data, possibly inform where we go next? Copper's not conductive, it's not magnetic. Or sorry, it is conductive, it's not magnetic. So the next step is probably a geophysical survey to measure conductivity to a certain depth in the crust of the earth. And then if we can see a conductivity trend, that might tell us where the mineralization's going. It's that, or we take a giant, what do they call it? They can put a hammer bit on the end of an excavator and just break up the rock. That's the other thing I want to do. It's rather dramatic. We could blast it. We have to permit blasting. So we'll see what we do next. I don't know the answer yet. Geologists are still thinking amongst themselves.
How many sites do you have going right now? Do you have any?
3 major sites, but within the one big one. So the gold deposit is one. Not too far from the gold deposit. The second site is now, well, it was approximately 300 square kilometers, but I've just staked a whole bunch of claims. So now it's really, really, really big is the technical term. But on that site, there's 4-5 areas of interest. That's a big site. And then there's the new ground. And then there's one site in Ontario, which is another gold property in Ontario. So we have a fair bit happening for a little tiny company.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. I bet. I bet it's fun. It seems like very interesting. I mean, it's obviously, though, it is a long process, like you said. Like each site doesn't, give you instant rewards by any stretch.
Absolutely not, and that's part of the problem. It's part of the problem. Like I've been doing this a while. I'm not 19. I've arrived here gradually, and part of the problem is that our capital markets operate on a fairly transactional, almost instantaneous basis. Certainly at most quarterly, but a lot of investors, their time horizon is, you can measure it in hours, some of them weeks. What I do takes years. It takes years to work through the system. For the gold deposit, I'm talking to the geologist, the engineer working on that program, and I said, give me a year's worth of drilling, plan 10,000 meters worth of drill holes. I immediately rethink that as soon as I say it, because the reality is we would probably break 10,000 meters into 4 programs of 2,500 meters. And the only thing that you can be sure of is the first program's going to happen, because every program thereafter might get thrown out the window depending on the results of the first holes. Like if we see something really good, drill the hole, stop, get them assayed, let them think about it. It might mean we have to follow up on something we just did. So the other plans you have get, shoved down the table. Get to them one day, sort of thing. So it's neat. Everything's always changing, but I thrive on that. I couldn't do the same thing every day. In fact, I get stressed out when I'm supposed to be doing one thing, because I'm like, I can't do one thing. What else is happening?
All right, Nicole, we're going to take a quick break right here. And what's interesting about Nicole's story is that she didn't go to school for this, as you mentioned. You went to, don't say it. Well, your first job was quite different from this. So we'll be back right after the commercial break. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Help me get the word out. Share this with your friends. This is so good. We'll be back. Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Conway. If you love what you're listening to, please like and subscribe to my channel on whatever podcast platform you listen to and on YouTube, so I can keep bringing you these amazing women and sharing their stories. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you love it as much as I do. All right, welcome back. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Nicole Brewster is with me. What's fascinating about Nicole's story, as I mentioned before the break, is that Nicole did not go to school for this. She worked in a quite different field when you got out of school. So what did you want to do let's start there. What did you want to do when you were little?
I have no idea. I had no plans. I was just hurdling through things.
So then what happened? What did you just go to school for?
Well, I have an honors degree in history,
Okay. And
so
then,
just general arts degree. Um, when I went into school, geology, which is my father's profession, was really not doing well. So he said,
mm,
"You're not studying this. Don't ever
mm,
do it. It's doomed." It's exactly the business I'm in. It's the business my brother's in, and my sister's actually in the same business. So that really didn't work out for him.
right.
But he's still in the business. So then
Oh,
I had always worked various summer jobs like splitting core, doing computer work when it first came into the industry. So I actually became a stockbroker, and I worked at that for a while until I had a family.
mm,
And being a stockbroker fed my inability to, or my need to have things constantly changing, but it also makes it tricky when you're working from home to, do anything else because it's all
mm,
consuming. So, or when you're working downtown. So I stopped that, went back to being a consultant. I was in the early days of computer modeling of data, presenting it to, translating it to English, presenting it to investors.
mm.
I hesitate to use the word dumbing it down, but that's really it because people's attention
Don't know.
span is, it's
Yeah.
limited, and the information is actually incredibly dense,
Mm.
and it's incredibly detailed. 98% of it's irrelevant except to four people on the planet. So, you know,
So
that's what I
when you
did.
were, yeah, so when you were a stockbroker, did you, I mean, kind of hone in on the stocks, like
Oh, I
you know,
worked only in junior resource
okay.
because I was helping my first job as when I was just when I was a stockbroker, I was working in the capital markets side, helping a mining analyst actually write a survey report on the
Okay.
Voisey's Bay discovery. So I was summarizing all the companies around the Voisey's Bay discovery, what they were doing, what they had,
Mm,
and again, just putting it in plain English for people to understand. And that's
right.
pretty much my job today. Although my plain English, I'm told, people assume I'm a geologist, which I'm not, and I I aggravate some of the men I work with because they're like, "Stop saying that. You're, you're pretty conversant." That's not the point. I'm not going to misrepresent myself. Lord
Right.
knows we're not supposed to misrepresent ourselves. So
Yeah.
I'm not a
But
geologist.
you're
I'm
very
data.
highly educated in this.
I would like to think I know a fair bit, but I also know
Yeah.
lots of smart people if I have questions. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, so at this point, all right, let's go back to what you said. So, because you said you wanted to eventually get into the production uh,
yeah,
aspect of things. So,
yeah.
how do you do that? How do you
Well,
do something like that?
that's a project that has a couple lines to it. The first line is the capital. And I'm working to arrange the capital we need to advance the project towards production. I mean,
Hmm.
ultimately, it's going to take a lot more money, but I'm trying to solve the capital issue.
Hmm.
Um, the
Where do you
science
send it
issue.
now? Can I ask you,
Hmm?
where do you send it now? Where do you send the resources now for
Well,
production?
right now we're not in production. We've defined a deposit. We've
Okay.
defined a deposit which has underground access that was put there in the 1980s and is flooded. And our next step, our deposit's what's called an open pit deposit, meaning we could dig a big hole from
Hmm.
the surface. Or we could use the underground access to go underground to access the mineralization. What you're going to see us do is we're going to go underground to access a bulk sample, which would be a big sample of the mineralization, which we would send to get it processed to make sure it can be processed with no problems. We already
Right.
know the answer to that. We've tested that, so we don't
Hmm.
expect any problems. But that is called bulk sampling, and
Hmm.
it's called testing the metallurgy and testing the recovery. So we'll do all of that. And once we prove that, we'll be away to the races towards building a mine, it also involves a lot of permitting, a lot of environmental work ahead of building the mine. A
Hmm.
closure plan has to be formulated. You have to put a financial bond in place against closure of the mine. The job changes quite a bit, and it does take on a life of its own. But right now, our next steps are drilling, tighter drilling in the area where we intend to take the sample, and then dewatering the underground access. And I'm putting the capital together to allow that. And in fact, today as we speak, there's a fellow in the field who's working to strip away the overburden in the target area of the property. So
I would think once you say we're going to build a mine, right? I would think then everyone comes out of the woodwork to fight
Yeah,
that, no?
they don't think I can do it.
Ah. How do you deal with that? That's a good point,
I
because
just
you
ignore
are,
it. I
yeah.
ignore it. It's pervasive. And I mean, you've got to have your own conviction
Mm.
or your own belief that you can do whatever you need to do.
Hmm.
So,
How did you get that, though? How did you develop that skill?
sheer stubbornness.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's just the reality. I'm super stubborn, and I'm
Are
convinced I
you?
can do whatever I want.
Yeah. I love that, though. But are you often, and I already probably know the answer to this, are you often the only woman in the room
Absolutely. Not always,
for a
but
business?
usually. I mean, it's changed. I've been doing this a little while, and it's changed while I've been doing it. Um, there are more women in the
Oh, wait,
room.
I'm losing you a minute. Hold up. Let's, oh, wait. Okay. All right. Now I see you again. All right. So yeah, answer that again from the beginning, if you could. Are you often the only
It's
woman?
changed. It's changed in the time that I've been doing this. But there are now more women in the room. It used to be I was the only one, but not necessarily
Hmm.
anymore. And I'm glad to see that changing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that must have been very difficult, though. It must have been very hard
I'm
to
a
carve your
tomboy.
own
I'm
way.
a tomboy. I'm barely socially competent in a room full of women anyway. So, you know, I
I doubt
it,
that. I
it
doubt that.
was well, I'm more than competent in my own way, but I wasn't the kid who fit in. I didn't have the clique of friends and do all of that
Mm.
anyway. So I've always kind of been a bit
Mm.
of a loner and done things my way. So I think that's
Mhm.
just continued. I also
I think it's
play
working out for you.
competitive contact sports and I love it. So, you know,
Yeah. I think it's working out for you, Nicole. I do. I think it's been working
thanks.
out. Um, let's talk about what the minerals that you mine. What are they used for? Let's just talk basic for women.
Gold is gold. It's a hedge against inflation. And what that means is gold holds its value. It's not got any reciprocal relationship.
Mm.
Fiat currency it's presuming that the country can stay liquid and pay its debts.
Mhm.
Um, so gold is the ultimate hedge against inflation, against geopolitical risk. Then when you move to the critical minerals property, nickel makes stainless steel, zinc puts an corrosive coating on the stainless steel.
Mm.
Um, Cobalt, we need that for smartphones and other bizarre applications. What else? Copper.
Mm.
Copper is generally speaking used for conducting electricity.
Mm.
And
And
it
yet
goes,
now it's in a lot of cosmetics and things.
oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
also, I mean, copper's got
Yeah.
some fascinating uses. During COVID, they realized copper makes a great antibacterial coating, and they started coating all the grab bars and stuff in hospitals, high touch areas, with a very thin veneer of copper. Because the way
Wow.
copper acts, it keeps it clean, so you're not transmitting germs. So there's lots of really cool uses for metals that fly
Wow.
way under the radar. I'm
Right.
just giving
Right.
you the big high level versions,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. So what are the in your opinion, and you might not know this, but what is seen as the most rare resource we have now in the
oh well,
world?
that's that's a good question. Scarcity and value are two different things, especially when you
Yeah.
take scarcity. If there's no demand, if we have no use for it, it doesn't matter. Um,
Right.
the big one everyone's looking for is copper. It's called Dr. Copper. It's so fundamental to what we do. That's the big one.
Mhm.
The rare earths are not rare. The ability to process the rare earths is what's rare.
Hmm.
So, it's and these are all active commodities markets that can be subject to the whims of people trying to short them, trying to destroy them, buy them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a fluid question too.
Yeah. Well, where do you send the resources that you are able to gather? Like, where do you personally send them?
Well, we're not mining them yet. When they're mining
Yeah.
them, we have a smelter about an hour away that could smelt the various metals like the nickel,
Mm.
copper. But there's a mine about 20 kilometers north of us that's a copper gold mine that could process. So there's digging it up, There's
Yeah.
processing it, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
smelting it. So the digging it
Mm-hmm.
up part we do on site. The processing, we can build a processing plant, or we could use a local, we're in a mining camp. There's several around that could be used for either the gold or the critical minerals.
Mm-hmm.
Smelting it is when you take, when you're done processing base metals, the critical minerals,
Right.
the copper, nickel, you produce a concentrate, which is a mixed metal material, which you then have to take to a smelter, which will
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally melt it and pull the metals out. In a gold mine, they pretty much process it and smelt it on, they make doré on site. Doré is an almost clean gold product, but then that product gets sold to gold refineries, which would be like the Royal Canadian Mint, or there are a few well-regarded refineries in the world, including for silver and gold in the United States.
Right.
You know, the U.S. Mint smelts or refines gold into bullion coins and such. So
Right.
gold's got a bit of a separate story, but smelter for the other metals, there's numerous smelters in the province of Quebec, actually.
Oh,
So we
wow.
don't have to go very far. We don't have to go to China.
Well, thank God. Thank God.
However,
One
for
less thing.
example, the only operating nickel mine in the United States is in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, and they mine it and they process it on site to a concentrated material, but that concentrated material is then shipped into Canada for the final step because there's no
Interesting.
refiner, like there's no smelting capacity in the United States for nickel. So
That's odd.
it is,
Yeah,
but again,
it
not
is.
in my backyard.
Right. Literally. Yeah. But I mean, no, that I find that interesting that nobody's done that yet, you know?
Nobody wanted to fund it. Nobody cared about it. Somebody else was taking care of a dirty problem, so they were allowed to do it. But the
Mm-hmm.
world's changing, and we're going from a flat world where everything's flowing around the world to
Mm.
different power centers due to a number of differences in geopolitical reasons, which we're not going to go into. But that
Yeah.
means you're not going to have goods flowing as freely around the world. And you may not have access to services that you used to access elsewhere in the world. So you need
Right.
your own sovereign solutions. And that's what's
Right.
happening around the world right now.
That's just wild. So, I mean, where do you see yourself? You know, you're building this company, obviously, you're hands-on, you're doing, probably so much of the work that no one really sees
I'm the
and
chief
you don't get
bottle washer.
Yeah. It's tough work. I mean, how long are your days?
Well, my days don't have a normal beginning or end. So,
Yeah.
and I'm a bit of a night owl. So because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm self-employed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody
Which
who's in
is
that,
exhausting.
regardless of the industry, knows how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the long-term plan is to take the assets into production. But the reality is, at some point, presuming we have the metals market, the metals climate people are saying is coming. At some
Mm.
point, it'll start by the assets will get bought. You're starting to hear the financial press talking about M&A. That's
Mm-hmm.
mergers and acquisitions. That's how the big companies get the assets. They buy them from the smaller companies. Eventually, the bigger companies just start buying the smaller companies outright. So that's
Mm.
the ultimate business model that's behind what I do. It is to take the assets, to build the assets, to build them towards production, maybe even get them into production, but at some point, the company will be bought out.
Well, that's the ultimate goal, right? I would think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I'll go find another job.
So is that what drives you? What drives you to do this? Is it?
Curiosity.
Yeah.
Curiosity and competitiveness. That's what drives me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I
So,
want to find the answer. I want to see if it can be done. I'm testing a hypothesis. Can I build a gold mine? We're going to find out.
well, why
The hard,
not?
the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you getting, is anyone looking to help you? I should say. I was going to say,
No,
are you getting any help? Yeah.
no, no. It's okay though.
Yeah. So how do you
I
deal
mean,
with that
the
element?
the help's usually negative. It comes in the form of
Yeah.
telling me what I'm doing wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how you deal with it. It's just part of the landscape. You just move forward.
Right. You
So,
just have to shut it out. Like you said before, you just have to shut it out and keep going, head
mhm.
down. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you have a vision. You have a vision. I can see. I
absolutely.
mean, yeah.
Yep.
So what does it look like? What does that vision look like for the next 5 years
Me doing
for you?
this. It's going to take 5 years.
Yeah.
Mining, we're going to get a mining cycle. I think it's going to run 5 to 10 years probably. I think that Renforth will cease to exist. It may be 3 years out, but probably 5 years out, because the assets will be developed enough that I've taken the risk away. People are watching to see either I'm going to make it work consistently, little step by little step by little step, or it's going to be a spectacular failure. Either way benefits them. As I work to de-risk it, it makes it less risky for someone to acquire. Or I blow up and they just come in and buy it for nothing. It's one or the other.
Right.
So,
well, that's interesting. I doubt that will happen.
well, if the system works, it'll be very lucrative. It'll be very financially lucrative. Mines make a lot of money. A lot of money.
Which you wouldn't think so. I don't know. I feel like we've all been, again, like this, the TV what we've been watching over the course, when mining first began, however, 100 years ago, let's say, that we were all paid attention to the California gold rush and things like that, where it's just like, well, we see this crazy image and then it's like, well, the mine's all right, we took all the gold or whatever, and then let's close the mine and keep going. But it's not really the case anymore.
Fortunes are made along the way, believe me. You're going to start to see a bigger picture. You're going to start to see the annual financial statements from last year. Most commodity prices jumped about November of last year. So you're going to start to get a glimmer of what the higher commodity prices, which increase well over the rate of inflation or the rate of operating costs rising. You're going to start to see the money these mining companies make. It's eye-watering.
Wow. Well, I hope you're one of them. Let's talk about what many people can relate to. I know I was telling you on the phone when I spoke to you that my husband loves like the Gold Rush show, whatever it's called. And how realistic are those shows?
Absolutely realistic. I mean, it's as realistic as any reality TV, but that is a style of mining. Outback opal hunters, Gold Rush. There's one that's filmed in Canada, I think, or Alaska, one or the other, and it's the Jade people. Like, it's all very real. Okay. It's very grassroots. That's even less. That's smaller than me or what I do. Yeah. That's the real grassroots, but it's real. It happens.
But they spend so much time. They spend so much time, and they just get this small amount.
Yeah, they're doing it in a very grassroots way, like the Gold Rush ones that are it's alluvial gold. So it's gold that's been scraped off of a mountain due to erosion at some point. And it's rolled down the mountain into the water. And then the water, depending on the speed of the water, because gold's heavy, but depending on the speed of the water, it gets carried down a river. But if the river bends, maybe the gold hits the wall, it stops and it drops. But the river also moves. Rivers travel over time. Look at the Mississippi, where that sucker's been over its history. So if the river's moved, you need to be digging. You're looking for gravel, and you're digging out the gravel, and you're washing it, because the gravel's going to roll away. The gold's going to drop. Gold's very heavy. It's real what they're doing, but they may not have all the knowledge or all the data or the expertise. And for some of them, they don't even have operating equipment. So, it's very hand to mouth. It's very rustic what they're doing, but it's real. People do it. Absolutely.
Right.
Not what I do, but
so as an entrepreneur,
I'm also not in that gold environment.
It's different for you.
I'm in a different geological environment. So, yeah.
Right.
But it's fun.
What as an entrepreneur, I believe it. It sounds fun. I mean, it sounds interesting. The days are long, I'm sure, before you literally like strike a rich area type of thing, but rich in soils, in resources, I should say. What, as an entrepreneur, I mean, what would you say in broad terms, advice to women who want to pursue something in an industry where maybe they're not, where they're alone?
Just be yourself. I mean, it's not a popularity contest. I truly could not give a damn what people think of me in terms of socially, or do they want to go have drinks, or do they invite me to dinner, or any of that stuff. It's not a popularity contest. If you're trying to achieve something, formulate, and isolate what you're trying to do and chase it. relentlessly every day and stay focused. There are people that matter to me. I do care about what some people think. Don't get me wrong. And I care very much about my professional reputation and such. But, and you do have to climb the ladder. Like, I've had the jobs. I started at the bottom. But if you're competent and you're focused and you're capable and you demonstrate that, you'll move past the bottom. Some environments are toxic. Some things really, really suck, but you can change your environment. You've always got to be reassessing. Are you somewhere that you're serving whatever it is you're trying to achieve?
Right.
And, being in a room full of men, truly, I know we're seeing some heinous stuff in the news, and the world's not a rosy place, but when you get with professionals, generally speaking, they act professionally.
Right.
And
well, as I always say, having been in, well, as I always say, because having been in news for 20 years, the news producers do not look for the happiest news, right? They scour the world for the worst possible news to tell their viewers. So
this is it.
That's not what sells.
We're seeing 0.5% of reality at most at the best of the,
Yes.
There's a whole lot we're not seeing. And that's good people trying to do the right thing. And look for mentors.
Right.
Look for the people that can help you. Ask questions. It's not a sign of weakness to ask a question. So it's a sign of weakness to ask a question and totally disregard the answer. Different topic.
Right.
But people will help if you ask people to help.
Yeah. Did you ever think you would ever be where you are today, like doing what you're doing?
No. But my long-term vision is very questionable. It's to next week.
Yeah, but that's okay, because I think if you look too far ahead, you lose sight of what's going on in front of you.
Absolutely. I'm reacting. Lots of inputs, reacting all the time. Really no long-term vision and questionable memory of what's, questionable recall of what's past. So, yeah, it's fun.
Right. Oh, I
so
love this.
I'm lucky.
All right, I think that's it.
Do what I like. Well, it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Oh my God. I know. I don't know. Oh, yeah, definitely. As I mentioned to you earlier, I don't know a whole lot about this, but I feel like you are so easy to talk to, and you explain it so beautifully. Really, so much to learn, and you're doing just a fantastic job.
Well, when you think of more questions, get in touch again. In the meantime, you'll find Renforth or myself, Nicole Brewster, on LinkedIn, and you can follow what I'm doing.
Definitely.
Or Facebook.
Definitely. Yeah. Maybe. Definitely. All right. A big thank you, Nicole, for coming on the show and sharing your incredible story.
That's okay.
Really,
you're going to meet all my newsletter readers. Once you send me a link to this, I will send it out with my next press release.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, guys, I'm Jill Conway. Thank you for listening to the show celebrating incredible women like Nicole. I hope you're inspired to pursue your own goals, believe in yourself, and dream bigger. Don't listen to the negative voices. Your voice matters, and your story can help others. I hope you join me next time. Share this podcast with a friend. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.